Hello and welcome to As Built, the podcast from Graphic Machine about architecture firms, buildings, and how both get built. I'm Patience Jones, your co-host. With me is your other co-host,
Brian Jones.
Thank you for joining us. You may hear squeaky noises or what sound like crinkling noises during this episode because we have a new puppy. And his name is Bruce, and he comes to the office every day, and he loves architecture. But he also loves his squeaky toys and his crinkle toys. So that is what you are hearing. We have a third member of the podcast, Bruce Jones.
So the age-old question of firms, which seems to be a regular topic of conversation when we start an engagement, is sort of the thought of whether or not a firm should be a generalist firm or it should be a niche firm. And that is a very difficult question to answer, but we're going to go through a little bit about how to maybe think about it relative to your firm and where you might want to go and how that sort of impacts your marketing. So in thinking about a niche firm, we're specifically talking about like you focus on only on a type of work or certain types of work versus a generalist firm, which is that your broad experience in architecture is sort of what people come to you to do different types of projects. And it's the more traditional view of how architecture has been practiced over the years as a generalist practice. But as time has gone on and as building complexity has increased, niche firms have become more and more commonplace. So from your perspective, Patience, when you're thinking about making the decision that might keep you from going one direction or another, what would be holding you kind of back in that process?
Fear. I think there's fear if you decide to niche down that you're leaving work on the table. Yep. And what if somebody comes to you with this big project and it's not in the niche that you do? I think the fear of remaining generalist is that you have to have a much wider bench of people with lots of different kinds of experience in order to be able to serve all of these people. It's harder to market in some cases if you're generalist. It's harder to let people know that you're the right firm for them because you have this laundry list of things that you do. But it also helps on referral projects because let's say you did, a multifamily development and now that place is doing a new headquarters for its not-for-profit. Well, you're a generalist firm, so you can do it. On the other hand, if you're a niche firm that works with impact development and impact design, then both of those things could fall under that umbrella.
I mean, I think that those are so true. I think that the economic turmoil that might impact a particular sector at a particular moment is also another one that might keep people from wanting to niche down, as they would say.
That's also true. Yeah.
And it's the personalities within a firm, too, that can kind of keep this from happening. There might be different camps that feel like this is a good move and others that don't feel like this is the right direction for the firm to go. And, that can be a really tricky thing to navigate internally. And if the goal is to keep everybody behind the firm name.
We've talked just a little bit about the advantages to being a generalist firm, but advantages to being a niche firm are that you can potentially have a smaller core staff. You can really define your processes for delivering. You hone your expertise in a particular area. You become known as the go-to for this type of work, and it can be, in some cases, easier to market and easier to sell.
I mean, in the context of our last episode about positioning statement, it certainly makes it easier to identify what things you need to talk about because, there's sort of a thought that when you are marketing to everyone, you may end up marketing to no one because it's hard to know, would I hire them to do that project? And when you're a niche firm, it's very easy to say like, yes, we do multifamily developments. Yes, that's a good fit for the type of firm that we are. So, I think in fairness to niches, we should sort of define a little bit about what they are and are not. It is not a unyielding stance where you can no longer do other types of work. It's just that this is the direction that your marketing efforts and your other business development efforts are leading you towards that outcome.
Right.
Along the way, there may still be work that is not expressly in that niche that you decide to take on as a firm, and that is okay. And that is perfectly normal and probably pretty healthy for the overall firm well-being. Any other things that you would think that would be?
Just that niche can really mean a lot of different things. There's niching by project type. So, educational facilities, healthcare facilities, multifamily, single family homes. There's niching by client type, nonprofits, developers, developer partnerships, municipal projects. There's niching by geography or region. There's niching by approach. So that might be you focus on passive house, or you focus on adaptive reuse, or you focus on community engaged design. If you are thinking about niching, a good exercise is to look at all the projects that you've done already and decide what they have in common. And did you like working on those projects? And that can help you sort of sort out, okay, what would our niche be if we were to have one?
I think that is so crucial, because I think sometimes, in the effort to develop a niche, we can be drawn into the idea of what is popular at that moment. And we think, oh, that should become our niche because there's a lot of work in that. Well, you may not enjoy that work. 2, your firm may not be structured to do that work. And 3, it may take more work to change the direction of where you are to get to that place to be qualified to do that work. So those are all kind of, and we talked a little bit about that in the positioning statement episode, but definitely something that comes up and is important here.
Absolutely. And over niching can be a temptation. We don't recommend that. So for instance, saying we work with single family homeowners in this one city who are looking to do passive house with a pool. Like, you can, for sure. I mean, you can.
It's like you put all the filters and the table and it drilled down to one potential client.
That is exactly right. And you can do that for sure. If you want to do that, that's your call. But that's a little too specific in our opinion. So you want to make it where you have a good pool of work, potential work, but not that you're trying to boil the ocean, as they say.
And that it's when you're thinking about like the kind of work that you want to do as a firm and whether or not this is a good opportunity for you, you have to be kind of honest about those things. I think it can be, in the moment, there can be like, well, that project wasn't so bad, or we delivered the project on time and on schedule, but it wasn't exactly, our best work. These are all like, I just think it's so easy as a firm to really get drawn into the rose-colored glasses of how a project actually turned out.
3 quick questions to ask yourself when you're considering whether this was a good project or not. Did it turn out as designed? Did you make money on it? And was anyone miserable on your team during the project?
That wasn't already miserable to begin with.
Fair. Yes. Were they miserable because of this project? So that could be they were unhappy because they were getting yelled at by the client. They could be unhappy because the work was really, really tedious and boring and not challenging. This doesn't mean you can't still use those projects as a basis to attract clients, but you will know what you're getting into.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the reasons to think about from a niche standpoint of getting into that, but what are the reasons that you might want to remain a generalist firm?
Inertia. In some cases, there is a time cost and a financial cost to niching down. The decision making of what your niche is going to be and how you're going to prove that out also takes time and in some cases money. And it is a wider net in some cases for getting referrals, upselling existing clients, being carried through to other projects by the same client.
I think that dovetails to what I was thinking too, which is that you end up if you're in a smaller market and there's maybe not the volume to allow you to be in one particular niche, then I think that it's okay to think about it as these connections and relationships that you've nurtured and grown that may turn into multiple different types of projects and work that sustain your office, but that the niche just may not be the right fit for you because there's just simply not the level of work available to do that.
Yeah, and niche firms aren't inherently better than generalist firms.
Nope.
And nor is the opposite true. It's just a different way of operating and selling and existing.
And you structure everything to support that.
Yeah. And that's something too, I think, in the analysis is, okay, once we've sort of made this our public facing niche, do we have the resources and the assets to continue that as a niche? If we want to niche down into something and there are 0 prospects on the horizon for that work, or that type of project has really taken a hit because of economic factors, now might not be the time to niche down to that thing.
Agreed.
So either you pick a different niche or you stay a generalist firm.
What do you think the big takeaways are for this?
I think I've said this so much, I feel like a bit of a broken record, but I think being honest with yourself about what you want to do, and where you see the firm longer term. It can be so tempting to see, well, so-and-so competitor firm just announced that they have a niche in, reclaimed wood design. Like, okay, and so we need to do that. Well, do you?
Yep.
And is that what you want to do? Do you enjoy that work? Is it profitable? Do you have the staff to do that? It's important. It's important to have dreams, but it's also important to know that you can make tangible progress toward your goals.
For me, the big takeaway would be that this decision should come as a result of kind of looking at the books a little bit and looking at where the firm really shines. And that may come in the form of a generalist firm that services a wide variety of building types. It may also come in the form of a niche firm that is really honed to deliver a particular type of work. And I guess what I'm getting at is that it really should be a resultant and not a guess. And it should be something that your firm is already kind of telling you that this is the direction that things want to go, not that you're just deciding to do a sea change to do a sea change. And
you're trying to make fetch happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that it can be really tempting to want to shake things up, to want to do something different than what you've done in the past. But I think looking at the information and the data that you have can be crucial and important to, having this be an effective outcome.
I think that is an excellent point, because I think sometimes too, if billings are down, it's tempting to think like, well, if we just niche down, we'll just niche down and then everything will be, well, maybe, but first you have to figure out why your billings are down.
Yep.
What's that down to? And will niching
Help
have
that?
any impact on that at all?
Yeah.
Or will any gain be offset by what you have to do to make that your marketable niche? So whether you decide to be a generalist, stay a generalist, if you're a niche firm and you're wanting to move in the direction of generalist, then do listen to our episode. I think it's a couple episodes before this, about how to move into different types of work that you've never done before. So whichever one you choose, just make it with your eyes open and then know that there's going to be some work to making that successful.
Absolutely.
And feel free to reach out if you have questions or run into any things that you didn't expect on your journey. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.